Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. It is our final divisional preview of the new year. As you know, the new year starts off this coming Thursday, and we saved the champions for our last preview. Can the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat and become the first team in the Super Bowl era to achieve that feat? It starts here in this division. Las Vegas Raiders, being led by former New York Giants Super Bowl champion as head coach now, Antonio Pierce, giving that team some hope. We're going to discuss if they have enough to be a surprise playoff team. Jim Harbaugh leaving the college ranks, coming over to Los Angeles from Michigan after a national title triumph. Can he get Justin Herbert to that next level? He brought over quite a few Wolverines as well as quite a few Baltimore Ravens. And we got the Denver Broncos after the Russell Wilson disaster with that big overpay. They draft Bo Nix. They are going to be looking to change the trajectory of their once proud franchise. A lot to uncover here, a lot to unpack. Enjoy this intro, and we will be right back. All right, we are back. Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. With me, my man, Mr. Idris Salam, a.k.a. Bosco, from the Bronx, rocking the 2000s red Eli Manning.
Yes, sir.
He is on the Hall of Fame ballot this coming year, so we are going to see how that plays out. I'm going to turn the light on. I look like I am in the dungeon here. There we go. Right. Idris, you did something interesting today before we get started with this division. Do want to speak on Pops, Cheddar in the Sun League. My late father used to love that league. Shouts out John Olson. He named the league after my pops. One of the 5 leagues I'm in. We drafted today, and you pulled an interesting move. You got 2 of the premier quarterbacks, Patty Mahomes as well as Lamar Jackson, early. I'm assuming you're going to be using one of those 2 quarterbacks as potential trade bait.
Exactly. I got a plan. For one thing, I want to get Lamar Jackson off the board because I don't want to go against him for nothing. And of course, I picked Patty Mahomes for obvious reasons. After my debacle last year with Dak Prescott, trading him because I hated the Cowboys. Big regret. I won't make that mistake twice.
And I got to call myself out. I have not had the most savory things to say about former.
Yeah, talk about that.
So, in this league, you trade draft picks.
Uh-huh.
So, I lost the championship last year, going for 2 in a row. So I started at pick 15. Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyren Williams were on the board. I took Saquon Barkley because the closest receiver in terms of ranking was Marvin Harrison, and I didn't feel all the way comfortable taking a rookie wide receiver that early. And when I tell you that my phone almost melted from a blitzkrieg, from all caps, Idris, Zappy. In fantasy, you don't go with your heart, because if it's about my heart, there's no love right now for Mr. 26. Of course, I want him healthy. I don't wish that anything bad on anyone, but I certainly don't wish him or his team success, naturally, because they are the Turnpike rivals. And they stole one of my favorite players, I must admit. But Saquon Barkley, I expect him to have a healthy season. I hope so. The Eagles have a very good offensive line, even without Jason Kelce, his departure due to retirement. But 5 drafts, I must admit, that is my weakest team. Sometimes, especially when you're talking about draft picks, you go with gusto, you try to win the championship. But without a first-round pick, that does sting. I did make an attempt to marry a couple of receivers in previous drafts that I've done over the course of the last week. I got Raheem Mostert at a good value from the previous year, round 15, ultimately freezing him. James Cook joins the party. But according to Yahoo, I have the toughest schedule. The toughest schedule. Our reigning champion, 3 of the last 4 years. Zappy and I account for the year he didn't win. The DeMar Hamlin game, we took a tie. I got to play that dude twice. So that's not going to be easy. Don, a huge Cleveland fan, he is a phenomenal fantasy player. But enough about our fantasy soap opera. All about the AFC West. And we are starting it up from the bottom, moving it on up. Our last preview, Wednesday night, after the Casual Convo show, we will be bringing you our Week 1 NFL preview.
Yes.
Los Angeles Chargers, very busy this offseason. 5-12, last in the West in 23. Key free movement additions, linebacker Denzel Perryman, tight end Hayden Hurst. We got Gus Edwards, the former Raven, as well as the former Raven J.K. Dobbins, hoping to repeat his career after terrible injuries. Poona Ford, Bradley Bozeman, tight end Will Dissly, the longtime Seahawk. Eason Stick is resigned. He got some action last year. Some key losses. Running back Austin Eckler is a Commander. Wide receivers Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both out the door. One is a Jet. One is a Chicago Bear. I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to let the viewers see this over the draft board, how they did. They got my man Joe Alt out of Notre. Ladd McConkey, who I've drafted in multiple classes, he is essentially the number 1. Junior Colson brings the toughness that Coach Harbaugh wants to instill. They drafted well. I like these corners, Tarheeb Steele as well as Cam Hart from Notre Dame. They're rebuilding this team, and they have possibly the offspring of the greatest football player ever, Mr. Jerry Rice. So at minimum, the greatest offensive player. He's my choice. And this is a team that essentially is going to run the rock frequently. And, he does, Justin Herbert, come into the year with the plantar fasciitis. But I feel that Coach Harbaugh is going to get him up and looking more like that rookie of the year that he was. He has the numbers. A lot of people give this young man a lot of flack, but he has dealt with injuries around him, pretty much throwing to anyone. And he's been able to put up pretty damn good numbers under the unfortunate circumstances. I think this first year, the Chargers going to probably lose a lot of close games, but they're going to get back to understanding how to win, and it's going to be a good step in the right direction for year 1, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to have their lumps this year as well, and everything's going to really hinge on Justin Herbert's his foot, man, because that's an injury for a quarterback. Because you're dropping back and
painful
the type of player he is, man. So all that's going to matter. I think they did good getting Joe Alt. We wanted Joe Alt ourselves in New York, but that was a good draft pick for them. We're gonna have to see how the first week plays out. What's Justin Herbert? What is he like? Is he going to play? And if he does play, how long through the season can he get through with that foot? Because that's a painful injury, man.
One thing I do want to mention, Rashawn Slater very young player. He's going to be healthy now.
Yep.
You bring in Alt out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But these are players that I think are going to play at a high level. You need Joey Bosa to be a star.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, on defense.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the schedule here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let it pass one more time to the viewers. Their current schedule is on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Want to give it an honest look before I give my final prediction, but I must admit, they play the Chiefs twice, the world champions. You got to play the Ravens. In my opinion, an ascending Falcons team, you got to play them in the ATL. This is not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have them defeating Denver twice. I think Denver is the worst of this division. Are they going to beat the Patriots? Yeah, I think they're going to beat the Patriots this year. I'm going to give these guys – I'm going to give them 6 wins. 6-11 for the Chargers, and I don't think it's something to hang their head on or feel bad about. They do catch a break playing Pittsburgh when the weather is relatively warm still, but Cardinals team that's improving. Saints are not that good. The Browns, I don't know how I feel about them under the leadership of Watson. They have to show it to me. We know what their defense brings.
Yeah.
I got these guys going 6-11. Don't miss the playoffs, but I think year 2 of the Harbaugh regime, you're going to start seeing more results.
Yeah. I'm going to give them 7-10. And because I think after KC, I don't see much out of Denver. The Raiders, I think Antonio Pierce, I think he'll have them playing well, but I think they're still a good ways away. I think their beatings will come outside the division. You know, Cleveland, Baltimore. Of course, you got KC twice. You know, and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh could pose a problem to them. It's how to get out the gate, man.
Even the Titans. That's a 50-50 game.
Titans may be pretty tough this year.
Yeah, they're going to be scrappy for sure. There's some 50-50s in here.
But the one thing about Jim Harbaugh, he gets his players up. We've seen it in San Francisco. We've seen it in Stanford. We've seen it in Michigan. And he's a firm next man up guy. He brings that next man up. That next man comes to play. So I wouldn't put anything past them, but I think they'll take their lumps and bruises this year. I give them 7-10. I think they can make 8. It's going to be tough. They had to steal one, but I think with Denver, I think they'll handle Denver both times. I think the Rays will be a little bit tougher, but I don't see them beating KC at all. I think KC sweeps them.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I got these guys going. Best case scenario, 3-3 in the division. I could see them splitting with Vegas, but that's not a shoe-in either. Shouts out to your cousin Aaron Moorhead, current wide receivers coach for those Philadelphia Eagles. He had the pleasure of working alongside, and he spoke on our interview with him about Harbaugh's attention to detail.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert will be better for it in the big picture. Year 1 is going to be tough, and not so much because of Herbert.
No.
When you have that kind of roster turnover, it's going to take some time.
Yeah, because he lost Evans, he lost Keenan Allen, he lost Austin Eckler. You know, I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah, they're investing in the quarterback. It's a comparable situation on some levels to what Buffalo's going to be dealing with in the East.
Yeah.
Now that you have Josh Allen with a lot of new faces. But I personally believe that in this era of football where it's a pass-first league, when you have the right quarterback, he will elevate the level of play of the guys at receiver. And that's why you have seen some of these teams have the courage to move on from some big names. I mean, you look at Green Bay moving on from Devontae Adams not that long ago.
Yeah.
You know, you have a bunch of youngsters. We did the North Show. We alluded to this. A bunch of youngsters that are all contributing. Now, nobody's necessarily the alpha dog number 1, but they are all contributing. We're going to see that in Buffalo this year. You know, there are teams, and it's a stark contrast from, say, what the Eagles have with the Devontae Smith opposite of an A.J. Brown or a T. Higgins opposite of a Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
or even what they got with the Rams with Puka Nacua, as well as former Super Bowl MVP. Yes, Cooper Kupp. So they're in good hands, but it's going to take some time. On to Denver, Mile High City. 8-9 last year, a crushing defeat at Mile High to the Patriots basically sealed their fate, trying to face down a late season playoff berth. Russell Wilson is a Steeler. I think he's going to do well for them. Jerry Jeudy is a Brown. Justin Simmons is a Falcon. Tight end Chris Manhertz, a New York Giant. Lloyd Cushenberry goes over to the Titans. Josie Jewell is a Panther. Jonathan Hankins, the well-traveled one, is now a Miami Dolphin. Malcolm Roach, defensive tackle. Safety, Brandon Jones. Cody Barton. I'll let our viewers take a peek at what the Broncos have been up to. I'll be honest, Idris. I don't have anything against Bo Nix. Obviously, they needed a quarterback, and they had to do the best. You yourself, in the past, said that Nix was a good fit for this organization in the big picture, long-term variable. But what I worry about with this team, Javonte Williams has the injury history. Jaleel McLaughlin, while he has a nice yards per carry and just makes plays when on the field, he is a little dude for NFL standards. I worry about his durability if he gets thrust into bigger playing time, assuming Williams gets hurt again. And the receiving room, I must admit, it's a little
green.
It's green. You got young man Franklin out of Oregon.
Yeah.
Taking on a big role off the rip. My guy, Audric Estime, I'm happy that he is in the NFL. I'm happy that he got drafted. This team, I don't know how it plays. You made such a massive investment in Sean Payton.
Yeah.
You made an even bigger, crazy investment in Russell Wilson. It set the organization back years. I don't know how long this is going to take, and I don't know if they're going to have the patience to allow Sean Payton to keep running it. But right now, this is the first year of quote-unquote him doing it his way. So we shall see. But he was an advocate for bringing in Russ. So I don't know. This is an organization that was once very proud. But pretty much since Super Bowl 50, when they defeated the Carolina Panthers, they have steady nosedived.
Yeah.
I don't have high expectations for this team at all. I think you're looking at – I had the Chargers with 6 wins. I think you're looking at Denver with probably about 4.
Yeah, and this is why I had the Chargers with 7 wins, and I think they might be able to sneak in an 8th win because of the Broncos, man. They open at Seattle, then they play Pittsburgh, then they got Tampa Bay, then they go to the Jets. It's not easy, man. And Bo Nix, I think he's going to be a good fit, but I've always said I'm not too fond of Oregon quarterbacks. That's why I haven't been too fond of Justin Herbert, but I think he'll do better now than he has Jim Harbaugh, because Harbaugh's going to push him. Like, if you don't play my game, I will sit you.
And I think he's going to give him the much-needed balance.
Yeah, and with I think Bo Nix in Denver, God, you asking the rookie quarterback who had a lot of issues coming out of Oregon, like holding the ball too long and stuff like that, who didn't really see the field as well as people. When he had to go against good defenses, he didn't look too good. And he has, God, that team basically got a whole makeover, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
They won 8 games last year. I'm gonna go 5, man.
I'll be honest, Russ played okay last year, but
he really did.
All the money tied in, it was just a bad situation.
Yeah. And they're crippled going forward, man. They gave up a lot for Russ, man.
Yeah, a lot of draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to get better and expedite it, you got to suck. You got to be bad. So I expect them to be bad. One thing I will say about this Bronco team, however, they should be able to run the ball at a decent clip, assuming that Javonte stays healthy.
Yeah.
For his sake, because, he's a young guy. One more injury, it might be over early.
That might be it for him, yeah.
Yeah, not to mention, they do play good defense. I do want to to that, but it opens up My question's if they're going to be moving on from a couple of other big names.
Maybe.
Yeah, and there's a couple on my mind, but they've already moved on from a couple of names that they invested in that did not pan out. So it's going to be interesting. Long season for the Denver Broncos. I have them topping out at 4 wins, 4-13, last place in this division.
5-12 for me.
They'll figure out a way to win one division game. They'll win one, but this is going to be a long season for these guys.
Yeah, I'm going 5-12. Like I said, the first 4 games, it's not easy, man.
No.
The first, no. Yeah, I'm going 5 games, man. 5-12. I think Peyton, they have to do better than they did last year because they won 8 games last year with a whole bunch of turmoil.
And that's the problem. They're not. And I think it speaks to the professionalism of Russ because, Russ is going into different culture out in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
A more mature culture in a lot of ways because, yes, I get it. Sean Payton is a former Super Bowl champion as a coach. However, there was a lot of scandal surrounding that 2009 Saints Super Bowl.
Yep.
And in Tomlin's case, he brings a different dynamic to the table. And while I don't think Russ is the forever answer for as long as this season, I think he's the right guy to coach up Justin Fields and show him how to be a real professional in this league.
And he has a lot to prove, man.
Well, if Russ takes care of the football, they're going to win some games. They got a hell of a defense over there. Not to mention, now you're marrying Patrick Queen with TJ Watt.
Right.
Not to mention just a really good front seven overall.
Yeah.
And, their secondary is going to gradually get better. Joey Porter Jr., I think, is going to have a better year 2 than a year 1. He had moments, but he also got incinerated a few times. It's going to happen.
Yeah, he did.
He takes chances. But my overall point with these guys, if they're truly buying into Peyton, the only thing you got to do is bite your teeth, be pissed at him the way it went down, and you just got to be patient. I don't know how patient they'll be. This is going to be a long one.
Yeah, they got to – I think they have to do better this year than last year.
And they won't happen.
I don't know. I think they're going backwards.
Weird caveat. I just got to drop this in. The Seattle Seahawks are a former member of this division back when they were an AFC team. 2 of the last 3 years, Denver opens their season in Seattle because with lining up with other teams based on your previous records and the rotation, now you could see something like that where you do play an interconference foe more frequently based on that. But it is rather weird that for the second time in 3 years, the Broncos and Seahawks open in Seattle. It's almost like the old school days.
Yeah.
Of like Bosworth fighting with Elway.
Right. And it won't be easy going up to Seattle.
Nah,
that tough man makes a lot of noise, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. These guys got their work cut out. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a team with a lot more hope in my eyes. Uncle Randy's Las Vegas Raiders last year finished 8-9. A very
Raiders
got a big win over the Chiefs to definitely do some wonders for their morale. Christian Wilkins, the former Dolphin, big pickup. Alexander Madison is going to be part of a 2-headed monster at running back.
Right.
Gardner Minshew is the real story here. He's going to be starting early on in the season. He's well-traveled. He's had a lot of ups. He's had a lot of downs. He has that big security blanket in first-round pick Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
This is going to be a new-look situation. Josh Jacobs is a Packer.
Yep.
Max Crosby is still, the heart and soul of this team on the defensive side. I'm going to let the viewers see how they did in the draft. Personally, these are all points of emphasis safe team needs. Bowers is going to be a day one beast. That I will say. Yeah. As long as he is healthy and as long as he is feeling right, he's going to potentially become as great as like a Dave Casper. I really believe that that's what he could do for this organization. He's a big-time player who's used to playing in a big-time program. But it's going to come down to Gardner Minshew. If we get the good Gardner Minshew, I think this team's running game is going to keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah.
However, if they get off to that funky start that kind of bleeds into October,
Mm-hmm.
and if Davante Adams isn't exactly vibing with Minshew,
Yeah.
I could foresee a trade going down where you might see Davante get moved to a team like maybe the Buffalo Bills or the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Jets got mentioned because of the Rodgers connection from Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo has to get mentioned because, there is an opening, so to speak, for a veteran stud presence with the departure of Stephon Diggs. I'm not necessarily saying that Buffalo needs him, but I don't think anybody would be pissed if they get him. It's hard for me to envision Davante Adams getting through the year if they aren't playing good football, but he has sang the praises of Antonio Pierce.
Yeah. What you got for that record?
Let's see here. At the Chargers, I got the Chargers winning week 1. Got the Ravens winning week 2. They'll get their first win against Carolina. I could see them beating the Browns at home. In Mile High, it'll be a tough one. That could go either way. It wouldn't shock me if they won. They'll lose the Steeler game. They'll lose the Ram game. Versus Chiefs in Vegas, possibly an upset. They'll get beat by the Bengals. Let's say best case scenario, they sweep Denver. Not quite good enough for the playoffs. I got the Raiders winning 7 to 8 games. 8 games is kind of like my ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
They're not good enough to make the playoffs, but I do think that they're going to gradually get better. This is going to be a very competitive division, but I think a lot of the teams not named the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be on the wrong side of a lot of close games. I got the Raiders going 7-10, but a respectable 7-10. 8-9 wouldn't blow my mind. Got them going 7-10. Middle position to draft again. They got to figure out quarterback of the future. And there is one particular guy that has been playing at an MVP level the last few years, Mr. Prescott, who is not a shoo-in to be brought back by Dallas with the different monies that are going to be allocated. So it would not shock me if you see Dak Prescott quarterbacking this team next year. He's one of the guys. I know a lot of people have him linked to the Giants. I would be mind blown if the Giants brought in Dak Prescott. If you're moving on from DJ, it's going to be a full rebuild at that position. You're not going to get older there. But I could see him with the Raiders. I really mean that.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Prescott, I don't think the Giants, because you got a contract.
Hey, man, good to have you here. How you doing, bro?
Hey, what's up, man? You got to carry that contract, and the Giants are not trying to pick up money for an older quarterback. But getting back to the Raiders, I like Minshew starting. Because one thing I know about Minshew, going back to Jacksonville and even Philly and Indianapolis, he knows how to get the ball to the number one receiver, and that's why I like him. I think him and Adams will mesh pretty well, because I'm pretty sure they're working on, look, it's me and you. We're the veterans here.
He's happy.
Yeah.
That it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll tell you
right,
that.
Yeah. we're the OGs here. And I know he's telling him, look, I know you want the ball, and I'm going to get you the ball. Minshew's smart. I think he's one of them quarterbacks who, I think under the right person, he could have been a starter for good, because he's smart. He's
definitely an intelligent guy. I mean, he has had some unfavorable and games you want to forget, but he does have that fighter spirit.
Yeah.
That keeps guys around in this league. I don't know how long the leash is going to be before they maybe defer to Aiden O'Connell, but one thing about a guy like an Antonio Pierce, he's a man of his word. And if he sees Minshew as a true leader, I think Minshew will complete the majority of the season.
Yeah, and I think just like the rest of the division, they got a tough road ahead of them. But I think what I like about the Raiders, they wanted Antonio Pierce back. The players wanted him. They're like, look, this is our coach right here last year. No matter how the season went out, this is the coach we want. We want him back, and they brought him back.
And I love that Tom Coughlin has spent time with this team in the offseason, overseeing his former player. this league, like anything else, is based on relationships, and they have a very good one, Coach Coughlin and number 58. 58 is a great number for the Giants, but I'm happy for Antonio. This is something that he has earned.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give him 8 wins. I think they might sneak one, but I'm gonna go 8 wins. I think they're a little bit stronger than the Chargers based on quarterback, coach, and just familiarity. I think they'll do. I think they'll finish second place. I mean, yeah, second place. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. It's still like a year or two away, a few players away. They got to settle down on who's going to be. Like I said, the quarterback. Aiden O'Connell had some chances, but he didn't do enough to win the position. That's why they brought in Gardner Minshew.
Oh, man, when you have a guy with a resume like a Devontae Adams,
right,
who played with Aaron Rodgers basically his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
After that, his buddy from college,
Derek Carr,
who is not on the same level of a Rodgers, but he is a respected starter in this league. And then you deal with a young guy like that. Guys that have been in the league 6-7 years or so don't have, especially at that position, don't have the patience to wait for a quarterback to develop. It takes a special teammate to be able to, because, this era of wide receiver, there's no way to sugarcoat it. A lot of these dudes are divas. There is literally no way to sugarcoat it. But at the end of the day, being a receiver is not just catching a ball. You got to consistently run routes. You got to through a lot of double teams, a lot of hand-to-hand action, so to speak.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to throw down a block even if you're the first option, but let's say you get snuffed out. You got to be ready to keep playing. Being a receiver in this league is one of the most demanding positions. And when you get pissed off,
catch the ball now.
It's incredibly frustrating.
It's not just running, catch the ball.
Constantly running. But you say 8-9 wouldn't surprise me to that extent. We both agree that this is the second best team in this division. I have them 1 win less than you, however, both for second place. And that leads us to a team that is looking to make some serious history here. We're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
After a 5-decade drought, they are in dynasty mode right now.
Mm-hmm.
Our guy Carson Wentz backing up Patrick Mahomes, tight end Irv Smith Jr. They're bringing in Hollywood Brown. Let me tell you, man, from a talent-based standpoint, based on what this team had last year in that receiving room, they're a lot more dynamic this year.
Yeah.
A lot more dynamic.
Yeah, they're going to be something, man. Mahomes, golly. You got Juju coming back, like you said. You got Hollywood Brown. Juju's not, I don't see him as a number one, but he's a very good complement to a number one. And you got, with Mahomes throwing you the ball, whether you're number one or number two, he's going to make you look good. You just got to catch the ball because he's going to put it there. You just got to catch it.
Yes.
So,
downfield blocker moves the chains. They needed that one calm veteran presence in that receiving room. I mean, obviously Kelsey puts up receiver numbers. He is a tight end.
Yeah.
Slowing down some.
Yeah.
But, he could have an amazing season this year. It wouldn't shock me. Last year, this was like a traveling show with Taylor Swift, with Jackson, with Brittany, with Patrick Sr. But at the end of the day, all publicity and bullshit aside, this is a great organization that's being run right now. And, you're talking about Andy Reid, if he keeps putting bling on his fingers, might be starting to get compared to the likes of the Lombardis and the Belichicks, not to mention, and we've talked about this on air and off air, our guy Steve Spagnuolo, what he has done from a defensive standpoint could potentially be considered as a coordinator that should be in the Hall of Fame under that title. I mean, you're talking about what he did in 2007 for the New York Giants, shutting down the greatest offense in the history of the league.
Mm-hmm.
What he has been able to do with this Chiefs team, Everybody talks about, over the years they had Reek, they had Mahomes, they were a lot more flashy. They had Kareem Hunt in the beginning too.
Yeah, they did.
But now this is a team that, they punch you in the mouth. Isaiah Pacheco, he runs hard. Last year, I don't think pretty much anyone had this team surviving that gauntlet they went through, having to play an extra playoff game. They're used to having that first round bye. That wasn't the case last year. You go into Buffalo and get a huge win. You go into Baltimore and get a huge win. And I must admit, the only thing that could stop the Chiefs, in my opinion, is the Chiefs themselves right now. I mean, we know that the Bengals have had some success against them. We know that the Ravens invested in King Henry. They're reloading. The New York Jets are going to be heard from with that defense. Aaron Rodgers has a lot to prove as well. But until somebody proves me otherwise, after what I witnessed last year, not only do I have this team winning their typical 13 games, last year was an off year. They only won 11. I think this team is going to their third consecutive Super Bowl. I really believe that. And I don't want them to win. I've seen it. They've lost some big names because they had to. L'Jarius Sneed. He's a Titan now. That's got to be
I thought Sneed would be back. I thought Sneed would be back.
Hell of a ball player. Shouts out Sylvia Sneed from our family in the NFC Beast. She is I'm sure she's very proud of L'Jarius. He's a hell of a player. And,
she needs to get him on the show. Come on, Sylvia.
I mean, NFL stands for not for long, Idris. So when you have that opportunity to get the bag, you got to get it. But I do feel for him on the level of like, damn, you are a key component of these two championship teams. Now they're trying to make history, and he's not there. So that's got to be tough on the other end.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown.
It's a business, It's a business, so.
Let me ask you this. We're going to look at this via the draft here. Worthy, we know what he brings.
Oh, yeah.
From Texas. Jared Wiley, they're already thinking about the future at the tight end position. You have to.
Rightfully so.
Stay relevant. You got to think about tomorrow in this league. As I said, not for long. That's what the NFL stands for. Not for long. Defensively, this team is outstanding. Bringing back Chris Jones.
Oh, yeah.
We saw what they looked like without him week one. He wanted to let everybody see on a national stage what it looks like without him. He was hanging out in the crowd watching the game.
Laughing.
7 hours. Okay, we need to fix this. The Rashee Rice stuff, the off-the-field stuff, that's going to linger into next year, it looks like. I don't think we're getting a suspension this year.
Right.
Do you think that any distractions or maybe complacency could catch these guys, or do you think that they have been there, done it, they know what time it is, and they're just going to get it done?
I think that's what it is. I think they've been there, done that. They know what it takes to get it done. They've been through adversity. So it's not like if anything happens, like, oh, what did we do? What did we do? What did we do in the past to get through this?
Yeah.
And I think they're the type of team that they can police themselves.
Yes.
And as much as Andy Reid may seem like a softie, Andy Reid is pretty tough. So I think they'll be okay. I think
demanding excellence. I think it's safe to say on some levels and layers that when you have earned that extra respect to be a coach on the field, so to speak, you get that, or when you're a veteran and you've paid your dues, you do get that little extra rope or respect. Like a lot of people weren't happy about the little outburst with Kelsey and this and that. But what people have to understand, these are men playing a kid's game for man money at a high level. A lot of testosterone out there. Shit's going to happen sometimes. But, the off-the-field stuff for some players or just some of the immaturities.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it in the past with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
They got rid of him.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill had some stuff off the field, but more so he went to the Dolphins because of the no state tax. He was able to enhance his money situation by coming to Florida. This team has proven over the years that they are not afraid to move on from some big names because they believe in their program.
And that's a good thing. Yep.
That's how I see it. Now, looking at the schedule, Week 15 at Cleveland, just something to circle. Not because I think the Browns are great, but that is a ruthless place to play at that juncture of the year. Very difficult during that time of the season. I'll tell you the truth. This is a 13-win club. Week 1 is going to be tough. Hollywood Brown, I'm reading, is doubtful. Week 2 against the Bengals, they get the gauntlet early, I notice. 3 at the Falcons. This is an early gauntlet here.
But the thing about them, and if you notice over the last few years, they come out the gate slow. And then they just do what they do.
Yeah, they have had a propensity for being a little slower out the gates.
And I think this year be the same. But then again, who knows? They might come out the gate like, look, we know what we got to do. They're coming to get us. Let's go get them.
But truthfully, looking at this schedule, I mean, it's always a primetime war whenever they play Buffalo, whether it's a day game. In Buffalo, that's a great environment. But truthfully, when I look at this schedule and look at the favorable home matchups, Baltimore's going to be tough. We know that. It's banner night. That's never easy to rise to the occasion, especially when the guys you eliminated are the first opponent.
Right.
So an Arabian upset wouldn't exactly blow my mind. I'm going to take the home team. I'll take the Chiefs. Week 2 versus the Bengals. Joe Burrow has had success there in the playoffs. They win those 2 games off the jump. I'm going to call this early, and I might get laughed at for saying this. Loss 1 might be in Atlanta. Loss 1 might be in Atlanta. They're going to beat the Chargers. They're going to beat the Saints. 49ers, that's going to be their game of the year, in my opinion. Week 7 out in Santa Clara, that's going to be the game of the year for them.
Yeah. I agree. They win the first 2. Yeah, I could see 13-4. I think at worst is 12-5, but I don't see 5 on the board. Frisco, maybe Cincinnati, maybe Baltimore. I see 4.
And the Chiefs, I can't see with all the added talent.
Yeah.
How and what's at stake to truly be a part of NFL history. It would take some monumental bad things to happen. Like you would need Mahomes to get injured or something terrible like that. Yeah. And I'll be honest, man, Carson Wentz coming into this, I don't necessarily think that he is a bad guy in the event. They've had a good habit of having the right backup quarterbacks too. We saw
that's the offense made for him.
Step up for this organization in the past.
That's the offense made for him.
No, absolutely. If you look at the younger Carson Wentz, there is no lies detected. This is the offense made for him. I'm gonna go 13-4. The 4th loss possibly being a game they don't need late in the year, but I got this team going 13-4, and strong possibility of being the 1 seed.
I got them 13-4. Possibly being the 1 seed also. I think it'll come down to them in Baltimore for the 1 seed. But 13-4, at worst case scenario, they just have to let a game go at the end of the season. 12-5. If the 1 seed is not on the line, if they know they're locked into the 2 and they can't go any further.
So you got Baltimore winning the North. Now that my memory serves me right, is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting because I picked the Bengals, and this might not be popular, but I actually have the Ravens being a bubble team that could miss the playoffs. But that's possible. That's in part predicated off of the fact that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have their number. We'll see. Lamar has struggled against them, but man, it's never happened. You think about the greatest teams that ever played this game, teams that could have lasted longer. We talk about those 90s Cowboys. They had to, unfortunately, close up shop early. Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones, they didn't get belong on that level. Barry Switzer won a third. The franchise won a third Super Bowl in the 90s. Barry Switzer was the replacement for Jimmy Johnson, but those were his players.
Yeah. Anyone could have coached that team and won.
No, I must admit, yeah, and you can't say that often, but that is one of those rare cases where you really could say that, and that's exactly what happened. Barry got Super Bowl. It's the last time they won, but that was a dynasty that got cut short.
Yeah.
I do think the Green Bay Packers, if you take it all the way back to the 60s, don't get enough love because a lot of people overlook the fact that these guys were doing it pre-merger into the actual Super Bowl era. If the merger happened a few years earlier, I think Green Bay would be remembered a little more fondly about what they accomplished with Coach Lombardi.
Yeah.
The Steelers, shit. 4 in the 70s, what more can you say? Jackie Smith drop makes that possible, or else it's a split.
Yeah.
Cowboys could have had half of that claim to that decade, too. And we all know what the New England Patriots have done. That's another thing, too, Idris.
Yep.
Tom Brady retired. He's in the booth now. 7 rings out of 10 opportunities. 70% winning percentage in the Super Bowl, which is outstanding.
That's insane.
A loss to the Philadelphia Eagles and 2 giant losses. But outside of that, nothing but pure success. And now you look at Mr. Mahomes. He's only lost to Brady. And let's be real, lost to that defense because he had no chance.
And that O-line was beaten. They were broken. They were broken down.
It was a horrific situation for the Chiefs. He's 3-1 in the Super Bowl. This would be his 4th Super Bowl. Doing it in a comparable time frame to what Montana did it, because Montana won 4 rather quickly for the short career. And I got to say, man, let's say hypothetically if the Chiefs three-peat, is it early? Is it late enough, I should say? Can we look at this guy as the GOAT at that point? Is it something, or is it still we got to do more? I mean, I'm sorry. To three-peat, I don't give a damn what era you're talking about.
I put it this way. Golly, man. I wouldn't argue with anyone who said yes. I'll put it that way. I think he would have to put a few more numbers up because he's still pretty low on the,
he's
touchdown.
In my top 5 all time already.
Yeah.
I literally have him at 5. And it's out of respect.
I would put him near myself. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's Brady, it's Montana, it's Peyton Manning, it's Dan Marino, and it's Patrick Mahomes. Not shitting on Elway, Rodgers, Staubach, but those are my top 5 based on all of it right now.
It's what they did. When you get there and you win, you can't argue against that. When you get there and you win, that's it. Because what you do, you play to win. You don't play to win playoff games. You don't play to win regular. You don't play for stats. You play to win championships.
And, of course, we know that teams win championships because you look at a guy like a Dan Marino putting up numbers in an era where people didn't put up numbers like that. I've heard people say, oh, Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. He did. But Joe Montana won 2 before Jerry Rice was even a member of the 49ers.
And, and still with that, I don't even like that argument because I'm like, you still need a quarterback. Or you need to be like Baltimore, who had a hell of a run game, a hell of an offensive line, and a historical defense. You just need a quarterback. And with Trent Dilfer, he may not. And actually, Trent Dilfer had a pretty good season when he took over from Tony Banks. He had a good season. Tony Banks
started the year there, and he did enough to win. And the thing is, defense, as it wins championships. This is an era of football where they keep stripping the defenses of more and more liberties. But the bottom line is, this team has a phenomenal defense. And similar to Brady. Yes, Brady has all those fourth quarters, and rightfully so should be in all these conversations. But Brady also had great defenses as well for the most part. Montana had great defenses, and that was pre-free agency, so teams stayed together a little longer back then.
Yeah, with Mahomes, and I posed this question. I might have posed on the show last week, I think it was. Oh, no, we talked off air about it. Yeah, with Mahomes, if he wins this year, golly, you talking 3 in a row, 4 or 5. I mean, you gotta have. He has to be no lower than number 5. You can't put him no longer.
I have him there already.
Yeah, I have him at 5 now. But for those naysayers, you cannot take him out of the top 5.
And I've said it before. This guy does not have to win 7 Super Bowls to be considered the GOAT, because from a statistical value, he's already on pace to crush Brady. And to the Brady lovers, I don't want to hear no crying.
No.
Because if you guys start with the numbers are inflated, then you can hear the belly aching of the previous regime of Joe Montana fans who felt that way. Because similar to Kobe and Michael, I have said this numerous times, Joe Montana, Tom Brady are incredibly similar in terms of who they are as players.
Yeah.
I feel that if one guy got drafted in 2000, that being Montana, and if the other guy got drafted in 79, that being Brady, they still would be great.
Yeah.
They just would have not had the same amount of years played. I think if Joe Montana played in an era like this, the numbers would look better, because Lawrence Taylor really said something that made sense. He said it. He said a lot of the numbers are inflated because of the era. He says in Montana's era, that was my era.
Yeah.
Some beatings. I'm not going to sit here and say that Tom Brady has not paid his dues and didn't take beatings.
Yeah.
But it's always open to subjectivity because of the different eras. I remember we did a show a while back, Brett about had an aneurysm over me picking Jerry Rice over Tom Brady as the greatest player. Yep. And me putting LT above Brady because he's the greatest defensive player, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a historic football season. It's hard to believe we're back already.
It's great. And with Mahomes, I think last year was Mahomes' best work, because he really never had a number 1 receiver.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Still won the division. Went to Baltimore and beat Baltimore. Went to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, and still won. And with Brady, I can't say that with him of the many times he's been there, because the first year he got there, that defense pretty much helped him. You know, he's more like a game manager.
So on turf.
Yeah, and he really, and throughout each Super Bowl, you know, he had pretty good teams, and I owe it to him because he made those players better.
This is my thing with the Brady Mahomes comparison. First of all, they're different skill sets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But the reason why I have Mahomes as more talented than Brady off the rip, there's other guys that are more talented than Brady. Oh, yeah. But the reason I have him more talented off the rip is because never in Patrick Mahomes' career has he ever truly had to be a game manager.
Nope. He had to win.
I mean, you could make a case that last year you saw glimpses of it because of some of the grinded out games they had to win, but that's a short sample size. The guy that he replaced was a game manager, Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, in the first part of that dynasty, he was a game manager truly, and Brady did not really come into his own as a quarterback until I would say that the 9 or so seasons where the Patriots did not win Super Bowls. But I think that's when Brady truly became a great quarterback.
Mahomes had to win. And like I said, I have him 5 right now. If he wins another Super Bowl, if he goes 3 straight, wins 3 straight, damn, dude.
Well, let me put you on the spot. Let me put you on the spot before we get out of here. This is our final division preview. And, of course, our opinions might be swayed during the course of the year. Ahead of the 2024-25 NFL season, who is your Super Bowl prediction?
I won't bet against Mahomes again in the AFC. So you know who I'm picking in the AFC.
Reasonable.
The one time I bet against him is the one time I lost. In the NFC, I'm going with a rematch. Well, I wouldn't say a rematch, trilogy. I'm going Frisco again.
Yeah, a trilogy for the franchises, a rematch because part one had a different quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. I actually do agree with you, Idris. I have the 49ers, assuming that they stay healthy enough. Can the Packers get there? Can the Lions get there? Can the Rams get there? Of course they could. But while it has been a trend to not get back to the big game, you got to go all the way back to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Being a runner-up and getting back to the big game, it just don't happen in this era.
I think Detroit and Green Bay will cancel each other out.
There's a good possibility.
Yeah, I think they'll cancel each other out. One of them, yeah.
I personally think that the NFC title game, I've swayed on this a lot over the course of the last few weeks, but I have a feeling it's going to be Green Bay and San Francisco. I got the 49ers representing this conference for a second consecutive year. And I've got the Kansas City Chiefs winning their third consecutive Lombardi trophy. And my God, to beat a team 3 times in less than a decade in the same game, I can't even wrap my head around that kind of dominance. And the games have been close. Don't get me wrong, because twice the Chiefs have had to come from behind and win.
Mm-hmm. By 10 points.
Absolutely. You know, and only the second overtime Super Bowl. That was pretty remarkable as well. But
if they get there again, if Frisco loses for a third time, Shanahan is out. You
would have to think, because, you know, we saw it in the Atlanta Super Bowl. We saw it last year. The guy's a damn good coach. But in these critical games, particularly that game, the game of all games, I'm sorry. He has been grossly outcoached, because I really liked the way Brock Purdy played last year. I thought he grew a lot as a quarterback. You couldn't ask any more out of guys like Kittle, who didn't have his finest game but just kept playing hard. You know, CMC. You got probably the best offensive tackle in all of football there as well.
Because you know what? Steve Wilkes coached a good game on defense. That offense just stopped doing what they were doing in the first half to get ahead of KC.
Yeah, there were some critical mistakes.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, if anybody's going to beat these guys, it's the 49ers. I think they're the only team that is equipped to beat the Chiefs. Will they? I don't know. I'm thinking to myself, what can be a potential cool matchup? What could be an interesting matchup? I have Atlanta as a dark horse to do more than people expect, but do they match up all that well with the Chiefs? The Los Angeles Rams would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I personally think that the 2 teams in the NFC that match up best with this Chiefs team are in this order. Number 1, naturally, I'm going with the team that they just barely beat in the bowl. Number 2, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
They did defeat them last year. I understand that the Lions beat them too, but the Lions beat them without Chris Jones on opening night. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. And it was close too.
And in the AFC, I would say the Bengals have the best shot to beat them based on history. The Jets could give them an interesting matchup, but I don't have the Jets with enough to beat this Chiefs team. Maybe, just maybe, would this be the remarkable season where an under-the-radar Buffalo team could finally beat them, being that the expectations are a little lower, because the games have been that damn close with Buffalo. Buffalo has not been able to get over the hump with these guys. And that's why we watch, because we don't know. We can do our due diligence to give you the best analysis possible, but man, oh man, am I happy football is back. Idris has the 49ers losing, I'm assuming, to the Chiefs, right?
Yep.
Same here. I still got the 49ers making the bowl again, which that in itself would be an accomplishment because, you know, as a runner-up, it hasn't happened since the Jim Kelly days.
Right. You can't lose. You can't lose again, though.
Okay, you never know. Wednesday, look for Idris as well as Coco on the Casual Convo Show. At the conclusion of that, you will be tuning in to see us for the Week 1 preview show, picks and analysis for our winners in Week 1, and we'll probably drop you a few fantasy tidbits as well. For Mr. Idris Salam, I am your host, Richie. As always, it is nothing short of a pleasure bringing you guys this show. And I'm just a little burned out. A lot of fantasy leagues. Got to kind of cool down now. The calm before the storm. Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. See you soon and have a great rest of your Sunday. We out.